The Without Fear of Her Future podcast is for women who are passionately pursuing financial freedom through investing in real estate. We are here to empower you to be brave, dream big, and design a life you love. I'm your co-host, Tresa Todd, founder of the Women's Real Estate Investors Network and author of the book, Without Fear of Her Future.
And I'm Melissa Baker, real estate investor and fitness coach specializing in turning properties from drab to fab. I'm here to help motivate and inspire you to build your dream life because, girl, you deserve it. Welcome back to another episode of Without Fear of Her Future. We often talk about the key to building a financially free life is to stop trading time for money. These two next guests have nailed it. In fact, they have built an entire business on teaching others how to do it too. Today, we are sitting down with two incredible entrepreneurs, Steven and Chelsey Diaz, the founders of the Rainmaker Family. They went from the exhausting world of wedding photography to building a thriving online business that has given them and thousands of families financial freedom. Their journey is one of faith, resilience, and the courage to step into the unknown. They have now made it their mission to help other families, especially moms, do the same. Join me in welcoming Steven and Chelsey Diaz. Hello, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are so excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having us on. We're so excited to be here. Yeah, just can't wait.
Yes, well, I am super excited. I remember us meeting. I was thinking about it. Of course, we're in January of 2025. And we met in January of 2020.
That's right.
At Pedro Adeo's event. And I know, can you believe that it's been that many years?
Yeah.
And
5 years for sure.
Yeah. We met at an event where we were literally learning how to have all of these challenges. And I think all of our lives has completely changed. But we've kept in touch just because we get to see each other a couple of times a year. We run into each other at events, and I'm so proud of what y'all have done. It's been so amazing just to watch what you have built over these last few years, and I cannot wait for you to share your story with our listeners.
Yeah, we're excited to be here. I feel like we share a lot of same values and mission, and just what you guys said in the intro, just trading time for money. And I think in today's day and age, that doesn't work as much anymore. The system is not for you. And so starting to think creatively is just even thinking about it is one of the first steps.
I agree. Well, let's start out with a bit of background for our listeners who may not be exactly aware of your business model. What is the Rainmaker Challenge?
Yeah. We help moms launch physical product brands online. Specifically, we really focus on just any type of leveraged business opportunity, right? Because working with families, we work with a lot of driven individuals, but they are low on time, right? They might be crushing in the corporate career. They might be having 2-3 kids. They're balancing all the sports, all the things, but they're wanting more like outside of their normal routine, right? Yes. They're wanting to have that time freedom. They're wanting to be able to be the one that picks their kids up from school. And so really what we do is focus on opportunities that have a lot of leverage. And so right now that opportunity is Amazon specifically when it comes to e-commerce. So you think about buying something online, over half the sales are happening on Amazon. So we help moms specifically tap into that opportunity. And that's what we focus on in the Rainmaker Family. So
I love that. Yeah. I'm helping that Amazon statistic. Oh, well, okay. So we're going to come back to a little bit more of that, but just because I know you guys are strong believers. So tell us a little bit about how that has affected your business. How do you bring, what has that had to do with your success?
I think, excuse me, as I clear my voice, I think like looking back on everything that we've done, I think back even to our wedding business in the beginning. And even though Steve and I were fresh out of college, newly married, had no business experience whatsoever, still for us, like beyond just taking beautiful photos and handing them over to our clients and creating an amazing result, we cared so much about legacy and like creating something that like outlasts you. And I think that thinking about like our faith and creating like legacy, not just like financial legacy, but what are the things and the lessons and the things that you can only, I feel like, find out about yourself in entrepreneurship, I think come from so much about like our faith walk, like entrepreneurship is so much like the highs and the lows and perseverance and taking steps of faith. And our faith journey with the Lord is very much like that all the time, like afraid to step out when God is asking you to do something that might feel a little intimidating or scary, or the ups and downs of the roller coaster of just being on earth and interacting with other humans that you might love and want to serve, and that tension, or running a team. And how do we like truly love people throughout this whole process and create that legacy? So I think just having faith in business, it affects everything.
I love that.
I do too. It's so good. So speaking of love and faith and all of this, you two work together as a couple. So I just want to touch really quickly on how you balance your business and your marriage, and keeping everything strong, keeping it going and staying strong, dealing with both together all the time, 24/7.
Yeah. We definitely learned the hard way, I think, like, because we got married. I was 23, she was 21. So we're super young. We jumped immediately into business ownership together. So it's like the ultimate, like, marriage counseling trial through fire. So we learned very
Lots of
quickly.
trial by fire.
Yeah, we had just bad communication, bad systems. We just, I think, butted heads, honestly, for a while. And then we had to figure it out. And honestly, the business helped so much. That's why we love entrepreneurship, because it's like sometimes money is like a great goal to have, right? Because it gets people in. But then really what they need is like marriage counseling, right? Or really what they need is like their parenting needs to upgrade with their kids. And we have found like this is, I feel like going a little below the surface and not what, you'll see on an Instagram ad, but like often what happens in our marriage is the breakthrough to like what happens in the business. And so we have to like kind of figure it out here in the family before it kind of manifests into fruit in the business. It just seems like it just every level of business or trial we've been through in business, we've kind of like got the authority for through going through it in our marriage. And so I think practically defining roles is really helpful. We didn't do that at the beginning, right? We were just like, okay, we'll both do emails, right? That's a bad idea. Like, we're both going to do customer support. And then it's just like, it's always her fault and that's always my fault. And it's just like, no one's winning. So defining roles, leaning into superpowers, right? Like I have certain things I'm really good at. She has certain things she's really good at. We divide those things. She's responsible. I'm responsible. Like, that's been really helpful. And then like practically we just have a lot of systems for communication, over communication. So we have a weekly family meeting that really is like, let's talk about how I can support you and how you can support me this week. Let's just look ahead 10 days. Every week we look ahead 10 days, and we're looking at the calendar, we're optimizing things, we're working together, as well as we do a lot of things to just nurture the relationship that are like things you would do for your business, right? Like these are things you would do to your business. You'd have meetings, you'd have quarterly reviews, you'd have annual plannings. We do all that for our marriage as well. And if you're running a business with your spouse, it's really easy to just like make all the conversations about the business or just totally separate things too and go like, oh, no business talk at the dinner table or whatever it is. But I think we found a really good balance of integration in a way that's healthy and doesn't like dominate.
I think also too, when I think about at least even in the last year or two, we have young children. And so just recognizing what season you're in. And so sometimes Steven, from the beginning, at least like the Rainmaker family, he's been way more in depth in, I call it being in the weeds of the business, the operations. And I've come in for very strategic things that I know are my superpowers, because for us, it's really important that our family comes first, and raising two little boys and what that entails on our family. And also like we just made a huge life transition and change. And so just recognizing like the season that you're into, I think that sometimes, especially in a marriage, just like any business partnership, when you're bringing different things to the table, like some of you will have, we call it like having the grace for a certain season or to walk through certain things. And right now in this season, like I have a little bit more grace for our family, establishing them where we're at and coming into the business when needed. And Steven has a lot more grace for keeping the business moving forward. And I don't know if it'll always be that way. Like, it wasn't that way before we moved. We were both like, I think, both more equally involved. And as we've made that transition, I've had to step back a little bit. And initially, I think I had some shame and some guilt just around that. Like, I want to do more. Is this okay to show up? Not as much. Is our team okay with it? And so as I've released control, and of course, having the right people in place has just been like, this is what is needed for us to thrive in our marriage first, and then in our family, and then in our business. So recognizing the season is really important.
It is. That's so powerful. So powerful. So thanks for sharing that. I know our listeners are going to love that because it's just
some great advice for our listeners who have the busy families or who are working with their spouse, in ways.
I'm a big believer in seasons. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And I think I can get through something if I remember, okay, this is a season.
Yeah.
This is a season. It's going to end. And
Yeah.
but okay, so let's talk a little bit about daily habits and routines that have been game changers in helping y'all maintain focus, productivity, and vision in your business. What kind of tips would you share?
Yeah. 100%. I mean, we figured this out, I think, for ourselves, but also working with thousands of moms, we've had to really dial this in because it's like a mom might only have so much time to build a business. How do we be so effective with that time that she's able to make the impact she wants to make, right? So I think for me, one of the game changers was learning about switching cost. So switching cost is like the cost that like switching between tasks. And so they've done studies on this where like if you're doing, let's say your taxes, you're kind of in that like brain modality of like boring taxes. Maybe that lights you up. But then like the next hour you have on your calendar, record an Instagram reel. Now you're like trying to be creative and like you're in a totally different like brain modality that you might like on the hour might immediately switch, but your brain can take 15 to up to 45 minutes to like fully transition.
Wow.
And oftentimes when you feel really frazzled at the end of the day, like decision fatigue, just like, don't talk to me. I don't like, the kids go to bed and you just crash. Like it's often not because you did a lot. It's because you switched a lot. And so when I learned about this, we actually redid all of our calendars to really optimize to reduce switching cost. So we're able to be really effective every day, but we're blocking things that have similar brain modalities. So today's a Tuesday. This is all we do on Tuesdays. Like we just talk and we're just in this flow state like all Tuesday. We do ads, we do content, we do videos, we do podcasts, we do our own podcast. All of Tuesdays, right? So then it's really nice for Chelsey. She's like, that's my hair and makeup day, right? Like every other day, we don't need to do that. And so it's also amazing for communication because I know Chelsey has this day is a personal day, this day is a family day, this day is, an admin kind of day. And so if I need something or there's something I want to put on the calendar, I know where to throw it for her, right? And she knows vice versa with me. So that's been incredible. Like we call it theming your days. And when you're in the beginning of business, it can be tricky to do it because you're just wearing 1,000 hats and that's okay. We still do that. But the more you can like look at what you're doing and kind of bunch them together in similar brain modalities, it'll really reduce that end of day fatigue.
Yeah, and just looking at your calendar in advance too, I think is important, and to just be mindful of like, what do I have going on in the next week? What meetings do I have? Especially if you are in the beginning stages and you're doing a lot. I think it's really important to come in with a game plan, especially when your time is limited, which I think anybody in business at times feels like my time is being so stretched in so many ways, no matter how many good systems you have. And so just coming up, and I like, Steven is a big tech guy, loves like like all the calendar apps and things that he uses and notes. And I'm just like simple pen and paper. And occasionally I'll write some things down like on my phone in my notes section. So just find what works for you. And I love creating lists. I love the night before, especially when I'm like, I have this limited time. My energy is going to be spent doing these things. And it almost just helps you prep yourself for what's ahead. And I even like at the end of my day, just like releasing what happened too. So just looking over those notes again, looking at the next day, writing down anything, any like last minute, like bubbling thoughts that are coming to mind, like, oh, remember to reach out to this person as you're finish up these tasks. And that really helps me transition from working mode to family life without like, oh yeah, I need, those light bulbs that keep going off as you're like walking down the hallway, taking your kids from the babysitter, or walking down the hallway, waking up kids from naps or whatever it is. So that's been helpful for me.
Oh, so good.
That really, that information about brain modalities and making the most out of getting the effectiveness out of your time and your energy efforts. That was great information followed with some really great advice. I love that. Many women, struggle with the idea of stepping into entrepreneurship, and especially if they're balancing motherhood or a career or, all the responsibilities that we have. What would you say to the woman listening who feels like financial freedom just isn't possible for her?
Yeah, that's good. I think I feel like you should speak to this one.
Yeah.
But I know me personally, I feel like I only believed it when I saw other people do it, like you kind of read it about it in the books, but as soon as you get around someone who's like done it and like achieved the thing or built the business or had X number of a day or something, right? Like I feel like I like there's a lot of guys who are like really into sports. I mostly got this hat if you're watching the video because it has my initials on it. I don't really know anything about this team, but we did just move to San Diego, so I'm like blending in. I got the San Diego hat, but
go.
that's like the extent of my sports knowledge. So some guys are like, they could tell you this guy's batting average and like, they know all the stats. For me, like that's me with entrepreneurs. Like I follow entrepreneurs like that. And I could tell you this person's cost per acquisition and this person's revenue.
Yes.
And so I'm like that. But I think when I first saw that was just going to events, getting in rooms with other people. And then you just hear what's possible. And I was like, oh my gosh. I think the first time that it was actually, we were in a small room for photographers. We were in the wedding industry. This is before we were doing e-commerce. And photography was like our 9 to 5. And so we were at this conference and a peer of ours stood up and gave a talk. And she said, this is my first $1 million year. And I was like, how's that? Like, it just like broke my paradigm, just like hearing her say that. And that person was Jenna Kutcher. Like, she's like, big time now and totally not a wedding photographer, but she had just started to step out of that. And that was like the first time I was like, oh my goodness, like there's levels to this game. And like, I just have been thinking small. So I think for me, that's been huge, is getting around other people that kind of like give you the faith to be like, man, if they could do it, I could do it. But what do you have to say?
I'm thinking of a story as well. Again, going back to our wedding days, I was so scared to be an entrepreneur. So I think that financial freedom that entrepreneurs seek to have and strive to build in their family life, like I didn't even think that was possible. I totally had the mentality of, I didn't know a single entrepreneur, first of all, and then let alone we were stepping into photography, which is a creative space. And so I just thought that you had to be a starving artist, essentially. Like that's just what I thought the reality would be. And similar to kind of to what Steven was, I started following a few photographers online. This was back when blogging was just that's what you did. And I just started following this one photographer in particular, and she just shared her life. And I could see like, she's not a starving artist. Like she has a home, like she was eventually able to retire her husband out of his career, and he stepped in and helped her in her business. And so I think just seeing what is possible and exposing yourself to that, I think you also have to almost come to a friction place in your life where you're so tired and you're a place where you're so tired that you are willing to change, because it's a choice to step out, to do something new. There's fear involved. There's imposter syndrome. There's oftentimes, a huge level of knowledge and learning that you have to do. There's usually an investment both with time and money when you decide to step out like that. And so it's just really coming to the place of like, I am so at odds that like something needs to change. Otherwise I'm going to be unhappy, or I am, whatever. There's something that needs to like bust for you to get over that line. And so I think just recognizing that financial freedom is totally possible. That's what I would say to like the women listening.
Yes,
I
that's
think
right.
like following people, listening to a podcast like this, that's encouraging, that gives you steps, that has a proven track record and a proven program. I think getting around that is so important, because again, when I was growing up and when we stepped out, like I didn't know any entrepreneur in our area. It was just following people like virtually online and kind of grabbing their faith and seeing what was possible. And then from there became this ripple effect of, there actually are other people like me in this small town, and I can go to conferences and I can create this network around me of people doing life differently.
Chelsey, I'm like you. I did not have an entrepreneurial bone in my body. I didn't have nobody in my family really, or the ones that had not been very successful.
Yeah.
So I felt like just staying in a job was the responsible thing to do. And so breaking out of that mold is really hard. And there's a saying that says a good life will often keep you from a great life. And I had a good life in my little job. It was nowhere, you wouldn't call it financial freedom at all, but it was stable. And I think that is, in America, here, the truth is we're blessed. I mean, the average person is blessed. And so a lot of times that keeps people from being willing to take any risk or do anything to get out of their comfort zone, or they even, like me, feel like it was not responsible to walk away from you knew you were getting a check, to walk away from that to try to build something when it's the unknown. But that unknown can lead to just unlimited, that you have no idea what's on the other side of it. So it's going to take a leap of faith, and everything you said, following other people that have done it before you and watching their journey. And I have a feeling anybody listening to our podcast or your podcast are already somebody that's looking for that, or they wouldn't even be listening to these podcasts.
Absolutely.
What was that point for you guys where you were doing wedding photography? What was the point where you said, okay, something has to change? Like, had something happened? What brought your attention to this isn't working for us anymore?
I think it was just, we called these like our winter season. So it'd be around this time of year, like Christmas time, the holidays. And I think every single year after doing it for a couple of years in a row, just feeling that pressure to like, oh no, when is the next check going to come in? So I think that pressure, the weight of the world on your shoulders almost. I think looking ahead and being like, we do want to have a family one day, and we were traveling a lot. I think we had friends and family who stopped calling us, or we'd hear comments like, oh, you're just so busy, I don't want to bother you. And it was just like, oh man, this is what people like think, and just being like, there has to be something else where we can have extra income, where we can really say no and be picky about like clients, as well as like not having to travel all the time and go to all these weddings. We lived in a really small town, so we were often like contracted to, drive 3 hours just one way, and spending the night and all of that, and just thinking like, this isn't going to be sustainable. I think that was really like where our wheels started to turn of like, we need to start looking into other things.
I feel blessed because we did start looking before we hit like kind of a rock bottom or a burnout, but we got near to it when there was a season we shot 43 weddings, and it was kind of like, that's okay, unless you build a team of some sort, like that's like kind of the ceiling, right? And I think we had 8 weddings in May. So it'd be like Chelsea saying, like, we'd drive an hour and a half to Sacramento, shoot 12 hours, hop in the car, charge batteries in the car, drive to San Francisco, shoot another 12-hour day, and
Oh
then
my
drive home 3
gosh.
hours at night, get home at like 3 a.m., like barely surviving the drive, just like I'm like falling asleep. Chelsea's totally asleep. And
On
we're,
caffeine
and then
crackers
Sunday you're
and coffee.
backing up the stuff, and then Monday you hit it with editing because you got 2 more weddings next weekend.
Oh,
So it was
wow.
like super, that was like, I think it comes down to a concept too that is powerful, that if you are required to be there to make income, your income's limited. Like that's it.
Yep.
If it's
Yeah.
relying on your body and your time and you physically being there, I mean, why do you think these celebrities are like launching like physical product brands, right? Or like,
Yeah.
they have to show up and be in a movie, right? Like they have to like,
Yeah.
even that, it's a really high paying job, even a brain surgeon. But if they have to show up, right, they can be limited.
Yeah.
And so having something like real estate or a vehicle that can go beyond you without you being there, that's like one of the first steps to really leveling up your income even potential. So we'd almost kind of hit that income potential, and it was like, if we want to go further, that's burnout,
Yeah.
And that's where we started to look. We were just like, there's got to be other ways. There's got to be other ways. And we honestly did like kind of all the side hustles. I watched every webinar, bought everything, like just did all the things you could think of. And Amazon and physical products, e-commerce specifically, was really the one that just kind of stuck with us. And we had a moment at a wedding, and this was probably like a year into building the Amazon business, where, just working a really hard day. It's Chico, California, where we lived at the time, 110 degrees. And we have one break, and we're sitting at dinner looking at our phone and realizing we made more on the e-commerce business than we did at the wedding. That was like the aha moment. We were like, okay,
This is working.
we didn't ship a package today. We didn't do anything. We've been over here sweating, carrying cameras, and we love what we did there. But it was like, we knew there was another way. And that was really where we were like, dang, other people need to know about this. It was so freeing to have that moment and then slowly be able to retire out of that wedding business.
Yeah. Well, I love what you're doing. I love that you're giving women, moms especially, hope, that anything is possible. They just have to be willing to jump in and take that leap and take action. And so I love what you're doing. Thanks so much for being with us today. This has been wonderful.
It really has. And before we sign off here, I do want to hear about any new upcoming projects you guys are working on or have going on in the works.
Yeah, totally. We have a couple kids books. So we have one that came out last year. It's called The Rainmaker, How to Win When Life Gives You Rain. And we're big into mindset. And, a lot of our books are really trying to instill that mindset to our kids. That's honestly why we wrote them, is there's not a lot of entrepreneurial books. And so it's the story of 2 boys, which are our boys, Kai and Ollie. And they are wanting to do a lemonade stand, but then it rains and they're all bummed. But then they learn, they kind of have this idea to turn the rain into something, and it ends up benefiting really the whole neighborhood. And this is one of the mindsets we teach in our community, is just, we never really say, I can't. We always say, how can I? Yeah. There's no problems without possibilities attached. And so it's a book we read to our boys just to like get that mindset in them, help them see it in themselves. And then we have another one coming out, I think next month, called The Color Catcher. But if you look up The Rainmaker on Amazon, How to Win When Life Gives You Rain, you'll see the series.
Yes.
Very
Go
nice.
get it, ladies. Hey,
Yeah.
I have 10 grandkids, so I'm definitely going to order a couple of those books.
I love it.
Start them on that mindset early. That's
That's
great.
right.
I love that. I
That's
love that.
right.
Well, really quick, guys, if you could tell our listeners how they can connect with you if they'd like to online, or how they can find you or learn more about you or learn more about being a rainmaker.
Yeah, absolutely. We also have a podcast that Tresa was on not too long ago, so make sure to go check that episode out. Ours is the Rainmaker Family Show. If you love listening to podcasts, you can head there. And then I would say most of our content that we are always updating, sharing more about what's going on in our Rainmaker world, is at the Rainmaker Family on Instagram.
Awesome. Oh my gosh. Thank you guys so much for your time today. This has been so wonderful and so insightful. I love hearing what you guys are doing and all this advice and encouragement that we can share with our listeners. Thank you so much.
Yes. Great to see you, and we'll see you again soon.
Yeah,
Yes,
thanks for having
definitely.
us.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Listeners, if you're aiming for financial freedom, dreaming of designing a life you absolutely love, or just curious about how real estate can transform your future, you're in the right place.
Yes, ladies, if that sounds like what you want, our masterclass is the key. It's easy to understand, super straightforward, and packed with all the secrets you need to start investing in real estate confidently and successfully. Why wait to build your dream future? Join us and let us make your dreams a stunning reality.
Just click the masterclass link in the notes below.
And we can't wait to begin this journey with you.